All right, this is a review for Units 1 and 2 for Math 2. You got your test coming up the next day. Please ask me any questions that doesn't make sense on this video. Also remember to pause and rewind because I'm going to be going pretty quick. So tomorrow, whenever you take the test, I'm going to be expecting you to make your own function. It cannot be the function that I'm about to use right here. I'm using y equals 1x squared plus 4x plus 4. You can use anything else other than that because that's the one I'm showing on the review. I'll make note of that on the test. Now, to answer number 2, does it open up or down, left or right? It opens up because the a value is positive. You always go off of what the a value is because a is greater than 0. All right, so since the a was positive, it opens up. If it's negative, it opens down. Axis of symmetry, remember to use negative b over 2a. On the problem that I have, this will be negative 4 divided by 2 times 1, which is negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So x equals negative 2 for number 3. For number 4, all I got to do is just take that and plug it right back in. So y equals x squared plus 4 times x plus 4. Now, the reason why I picked this function is because it's a perfect square trinomial. So what's going to happen here is the y value on my vertex is going to be 0. So negative 2, 0 is my vertex. Is the vertex a maximum or minimum? That's kind of going back to number 2 because it opens up. This is a minimum. If it opens down, it's a maximum. All right, number 6, find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is always your c value, so 0, 4 for me. You can also graph it in your calculator and see that. Write the function in vertex form. So really quick, vertex form is a times x minus h squared plus k. Now I know that a is 1. I knew that because my a value was 1 up here. My h and my k are from my vertex, so negative 2 and 0 for h and k. So in vertex form, this one's going to be y equals 1 times x plus 2 squared, and that's it. Because if I write plus 0 at the end, it's just plus 0. This is following the form vertex form. Number 8, find the x-intercepts, if any. Sometimes there won't be, but in this case, the only x-intercept I've got is negative 2, 0. Now, how would you know that for sure? You just put 0 in for y and solve the equation for x. And in this case, I would solve it by factoring. And I'd see that 0 would equal x plus 2 squared, so plus or minus the root on both sides. 0 equals x plus 2, and x equals negative 2. So negative 2, 0 is my x-intercept. For the remaining questions, which is number 9, graphing the parabola, just use your table and your calculator to get an x, y values for that. All right, and then actually just appropriately put it on your graph. Mine would have been hitting the x-axis at, like I said, negative 2, 0, and then up 1 over 1, over 2 up 4. So 0, 4 is my y-intercept, and then I've got a decent graph using that table. All right, that wraps up the first 9 problems. You dictate how difficult or easy those problems are by what kind of function you pick to use. Now for problems 10 through 15 here, identifying the vertex should be pretty easy when you're in vertex form. So this one would be positive 2 for x, positive 4 for y because of the form y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. All right, now moving on to whether that's a maximum or minimum. First of all, this graph will be opening down. This is a maximum because the a value was negative. All right, identify the axis of symmetry. That's super easy. The axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Whatever your x value is in your vertex, that's going to dictate what your axis of symmetry is. Number 13, graph the function. I've already got the vertex as 2, 4. And now I'm going to go down 1/2 in each direction over 1. Next, when I go to the vertex and go to the right 2 units, I'll only go down 2 because 2 squared is typically 4 by multiplying by the negative half. Also, I see that the y-intercept now is 2, which will be a problem coming up. There we go. And you could have, again, used your graphing calculator, go to table, get your points that way. Identify the y-intercept. Now that I've actually graphed it, I can see that my y-intercept is 0, 2. No picking it out from the function that we had. but picking it out from the graph I just did is how I figure out my y-intercept. Okay, and wrapping up with number 15 is asking me to write the function in standard form. So I'm going to go back up here and do that. So for number 15, what you need to do is f of x will equal negative 1/2 x minus 2 squared. We're actually going to write that out as x minus 2 times x minus 2 to get this thing into standard form. And then a plus 4 at the end. So I've just taken my function, I've started the process of writing it in standard form. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the two x minus 2's together. Negative 1/2 will still be multiplying this. So multiply out x minus 2 times x minus 2. I'm using FOIL, x squared, and then it will be minus 2x is minus 4x, and then minus 2 times minus 2 is plus 4. I use FOIL right there, and combine to my like terms all in the same step. Now I'll use distributive property, so negative 1/2 x squared plus 2x minus 2 after I distribute the negative half to everything, and I still have to plus the 4 to the negative 2, so I get negative 1/2 x squared plus 2x plus 2 is my answer for number 15. This is in standard form now. And that kind of confirms what's on the graph. The graph had y-intercept of 0, 2, as this mentions right here. I still have the same a value. All right, time to move on. For number 16, simplifying the square root of 80, you can do that in your calculator or you can do it out by hand. I would make a prime factor tree personally and see what my power of 2 will be in this case. And 2 times 5. So I've got the root of 2 to the 4th power times 5, and the square root of 2 to the 4th will be 2 squared. Remember, you divide your exponent by 2 when you're taking the square root, so this is 4 root 5 as my final answer for number 16. For number 17, factoring, please don't solve, we're just factoring here. This is a difference of 2 squares, that x is being squared and 5 is being squared, and it's a difference because of the minus sign. So this is going to factor to a plus b times a minus b, and I am done right here. Not solving. Don't solve if it's not an equation I'm telling you to solve. All right, number 18, more factoring. 18 is looking at factoring a GCF, so the GCF here is 6x, which when you divide that out, factor that out, I should say, would leave you with 1x minus 9, and I'm done for number 18. For number 19, it says solve by factoring. Technically, you don't have to solve by factoring because I'm not going to know how you solved it. I would, however, go ahead and get it in standard form. Personal preference, I'd actually use the graphing calculator at this time. So if you see solve by factoring, you can actually get it done with the graphing calculator. Anyways, how this factors is, I will do it by that since that's what it says. You just start writing things that multiply to 30. 1 times 30 ain't it. 2 times 15. Nope. 3 times 10. Nope. 6 times 5 is a winner because that adds to 11x. So it's 2x squared plus 6x plus 5x plus 15 equals 0. Now I'll GCF both parts. So my first part has a GCF of 2x, which leaves me with 1x plus 3. My second group has a GCF of 5, which leaves me with 1x plus 3. My factors are 2x plus 5 and 1x plus 3. Now, when we are solving here, not just factoring. We have to set those factors equal to the 0 that they multiply to. So 2x plus 5 equals 0, and x plus 3 equals 0. So one of my answers over here is negative 5/2 by solving for x. The other one's negative 3. All right, that wraps up number 19. All right, going on to number 20, solving by taking the square root. First of all, we'll get the x squared by itself, so x squared will equal 10. Now we can plus or minus the root on both sides, and we are done because square root of 10 cannot simplify. You'd want to simplify it if you can. Number 21 says use the quadratic formula, so I'm going to do that on the top right over here. First of all, I am going to get it into standard form, so 4x squared minus 8x plus 1 equals 0. Now I'm going to use quadratic formula, which you need to have memorized. It should be in your notes. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right, and x will equal positive 8 plus or minus the square root of 64. Then we'd have minus 16 over 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus or minus the square root. That will be, let's see here, 48 over 8. Now, you do want to try to simplify the square root of 48. Let's see what we can do with it. With the root of 48, I know that's going to be 2 times 24, 2 times 12, which is 2 times 6, which is 2 times 3. So this actually simplifies similar to the problem from earlier. So this is square root of 2 to the 4th times 3, which is 2 squared root 3, which is 4 root 3. Again, dividing by 2 on an exponent, 4 divided by 2 is 2. All right, 4 root 3 is one more we replace that with. So 8 plus or minus 4 root 3 over 8. And now I see there's a greatest common factor of 4 on all the terms, so I'm going to divide by that. So it's going to be 2 plus or minus 1 root 3 over 2, and that's completely simplified. That wraps up, by the way, number 21. For number 22, what value of c would complete the square? You just got to remember that that's b over 2 squared is how you figure out your value of c. So if I take the negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is positive 25. All right, time to move on. All right, you can hit pause to read through this. What's happening on this problem is that they're giving you a function for a rocket flight. A few things I can actually go ahead and get done. And I'm going to go ahead and use the calculator a little bit on this problem. First of all, I'm making a sketch of the graph. If you graph it on the calculator, you could even see it. But I can see a few things from here, like that it's going to be at 0, 70 for the y-intercept. I don't really know when the maximum's happening or where it's hitting the ground at, so we're actually going to use a little bit of math here to get that done. For number 24, it says, how many seconds will it take the rocket to get to the maximum height? That is screaming axis of symmetry, because we're talking about time, the t value, and talking about maximum. So for 24, you need to be using negative b over 2a, and I'm definitely going to just use my calculator to help me out with that. In this case, it's going to be negative 104 for b over 2 times negative 16. Now, don't forget to multiply on the denominator first to make that negative 32 on the denominator before you actually divide. So I'm just using my calculator. 104 divided by 32 is 3.25 seconds. And now it doesn't say to round here, so I'm just going to leave it as 3.25. It says to round on number 26, so we'll get there. So 3.25 seconds. That's an S for seconds, by the way. Now, for number 25, what is the maximum height? I can actually just plug that value, the 3.25, back into my function to figure that out. So the height will equal the negative 16 times 3.25 squared plus 104 times 3.25 plus 70. And I get 239 feet. Now for the last part, calculating when it's going to hit the ground. Since I'm allowed to round to the nearest tenth here, I'm just going to use a calculator for that. You could use quadratic formula. It's a good bit more work than what you really have to do. All right, so going ahead and get my calculator fired up here. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to y equals and type in what I see here. So I see negative 16x squared plus 104x plus 70. And what I'm now going to do is actually just go ahead and graph it. I'm going to use Zoom Standard if it's not already and such, just to see what's going on. I can see the graph coming up right here, hitting at negative time. That one's actually not going to be an answer for me right here because the rocket hasn't been launched yet in negative time. So anything to the left of the y-axis over here, I'm going to simply ignore. I'm going to focus in on this answer over here to the right. Now I'm going to count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's between 6 and 8 for sure. So I'm going to use 6 as a left bound, 8 for a right bound. So I'm going to hit second, calculate, 0. And when it asks for a left bound, I'm just typing in a 6 for x, enter, right bound, 8 for x, enter, and enter one more time. And it'll tell me at 7.1 seconds is when it's hitting. So for number 26, I now have my answer of 7.1. All right, finally down to our last two problems. It says solve. It's not descriptive as to how to solve, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know that these problems are kind of pains because they can't be done with factoring or the calculator. You get imaginary or irrational answers on these, so let's go ahead and get going with either quadratic formula or completing the square. I'm going to use completing the square on both of them. If you're wanting to use quadratic formula, you are welcome to. See that you get the same answer at the end as what I do. So x squared plus 2x would equal positive 1. Now I'm going to complete the square by taking half of b, which is 1, and squaring it, which is still 1. So plus 1 plus 1. So now on the left-hand side, I get x plus 1 squared when I factor it, and on the right-hand side, I get 2. Now I'll plus the minus the root. On both sides, I cannot simplify the root of 2. All I can do is subtract the 1 over. I get negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 2. There's my final answer for number 27. For number 28, similar story. Just this one's going to give me an imaginary answer. I'm going to first kick the 16 to the right. Now I'm going to take half of negative 4, which is negative 2. Square it, I get positive 4 to complete my square. So plus 4 plus 4. Now on the left-hand side, I get x minus 2 squared equals negative 12 on the right. And now I'll plus or minus the root, so x minus 2 is equal to the plus or minus root of negative 12. Now simplifying the root of negative 12, first thing you got to remember is that you'll have an imaginary answer here because it's rooting a negative. Secondly, as far as 12 goes, 2 times 6, 2 times 3, it's I times the square root of 2 squared times 3. So you can square root the 2 squared, so it's 2i root 3. And that's what I'm going to use over here now. So x minus 2 is equal to positive or negative 2i root 3. I've simplified that root down now on the right-hand side. Add the 2 over, and I get 2 plus or minus 2i root 3. And I am finished. All right, that's the review in a nutshell. Please let me know of any questions you got.